Good morning, everybody. This is pretty crazy. And we're going to go through this, and I'll show you why it's crazy in just a second. So here you go. National Post reporting, quote, as Canadian MPs weigh how to police online hate, one proposes new body to give tickets or warnings to offenders. As Canada grapples with how to prosecute existing laws like harassment, defamation, and criminal hate speech in the Wild West, one Liberal MP is proposing the creation of a new judicial body to deal with online offences. Quote, the criminal code is not an effective instrument, said Liberal MP Nathaniel Erskine-Smith at a Justice Committee meeting on Thursday, where MPs are studying the problem of online hate. Erskine-Smith, who is vice chair of the Ethics and Privacy Committee, was subbing in at the Justice hearing because of overlapping issues the MPs are dealing with. Rather than embarking on an expensive prosecution for minor offenses, Canada could set up an administrative system that is flexible and efficient, Erskine-Smith said. Like Phoenix Pay, or maybe like Trans Mountain, or maybe like the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. Any of those examples ringing a bell there, Mr. Erskine-Smith? Efficient and flexible how exactly? Oh, you can... I thought I liked you, Mr. Erskine-Smith, but I do not. This is not a very good plan. Okay, back to the ridiculous article and the stupidity that they're bandying about. Quote, the blunt instrument of imprisoning someone, putting them through a rigorous criminal trial is probably not the right answer for enforcing rules against hate speech online in every instance. Here's what I think they're going to do. This is me for a quick second. They're going to use this tool, quote, unquote tool, to bankrupt people. They will say, you have a fine, and you know what your fine is? You lose your bank account. You lose access to regular people banking because you're a deplorable. You deplorable. How dare you have hate speech? You have hate in your heart, and you don't deserve to have access to banking after they've bankrupted you, after they've taken all your money. Here's a $500,000 fine for your hate speech. Oh, you can't pay that? Now you don't get access to your bank accounts. Oh, we don't have to put you in jail. We'll just bankrupt you and make you homeless and crazy. Back to the article. In an interview with National Post after the committee meeting, Erskine-Smith raised examples like online threats, harassment, and defamation that are obviously breaking Canada's laws, but they rarely get policed. The proposed administrative judicial system could issue tickets or warnings the same way it happens, quote, if you're drunk in the street and disorderly. Okay, back to me again. Well, they ask who exactly defines what's hateful. They ask this in the article, but the problem is, if something rises to the level of criminality, usually police get involved, and Twitter replies, Twitter messages, private messages on Facebook, all of that stuff is taken into account. It's not like the police aren't using these tools and looking at those platforms when something rises to the level of criminality. What exactly are they talking about? The criminal code is not an effective instrument. If it's against the law and rises to the level of being needed to be looked at by police, then they look at all of those things. If we start having police look online and incentivize them to find crimes, because that's what you do when you say this is illegal, find people who are doing this and find them. Then people go out and try and find people who are doing that. And they say, well, that kind of fits, fine them, sure. And then it's the burden of proof is on the person that they've accused then, right? They have power to accuse. You've done hate speech, sir. Well, I haven't. Then what, right? Then there's a trial or not. Can you appeal the hate speech ruling from our SS rulers online from the Justin Trudeau government? Seriously, this is a ridiculously terrible idea. Back to the article. However, critics warn that any such system could simply become a mechanism for people to shut down views with which they don't agree. Right, Miss Goldie, right? She can speak to that, and that's not even in the law yet. And they're just shutting her down as much as they can. She has not broken a law. She has merely stated her belief. Back to the article again. I apologize. I'm going off like crazy this morning. Quote, my question for you is, who is determining what is hateful, said Jay Cameron, a lawyer for the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms. Cameron said he was concerned that whether the social media platforms, some judicial body, were responsible for removing content, it was likely to unfairly target conservative voices. He raised examples of pro-life advocates being silenced simply for stating their beliefs. Jennifer Klink from Eagle Canada Human Rights Trust says she was broadly in favor of, quote, a non-criminal administrative law remedy. Yeah. That sounds like non-binding law from yesterday. Ridiculous. Back to the article. For dealing with hate speech, but said she was also wary of free speech issues. If it becomes a mechanism for shutting down controversial views, she said, that could disproportionately affect vulnerable groups like LGBT people. Quote, there needs to be a resource against the platforms and the individuals responsible for the speech, said Klink. We need a, quote, variety of tools in the toolbox, she said. Yeah. The committee's discussion comes in the wake of 2 landmark rulings on hate speech in Canada and an international focus on the issue. In Toronto, in January, 2 men were found guilty of promoting hatred against women and Jews with a publication called Your Ward News that was delivered to homes in the city. In British Columbia, in March, anti-gay activist William Whatcott, sorry if I got that wrong, was ordered to pay $55,000 to trans activist Morgan Ogre after Whatcott distributed a hate-filled flyer about Ogre during the 2017 provincial election. Both those rulings involve physical flyers, while MPs and witnesses agreed was much easier to prosecute than the more ephemeral and voluminous speech that takes place online. Ooh, fancy words. There has also been a global push to police online hate here after the Christchurch shootings in New Zealand. What happened to Sri Lanka? 200 odd people, and it was something about Easter, that's right. Sri Lanka on Easter. We forgot about that? Okay, back to the article. Which targeted Muslims and was live streamed online. In Paris on Wednesday, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that Canada will launch a, quote, digital charter that will govern how the country fights hate speech and misinformation online. Trudeau was in France for an international summit sparked by the shootings. After a successful human rights ruling against Whatcott, Ogre was in Ottawa to testify at the Justice Committee on Thursday. She said that while her situation rose to the level of criminality, there are countless cases online that tiptoe over the line but never get prosecuted, and argued the situation urgently needs a solution. The burden of bringing something to the attention of the police is on the person being targeted. If they think that it rises to criminality, they can go and test that. They can say, hello, Mr. Officer, this person's attacking me online. It's hateful, blah, 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 blah. Can you help me with that? It's affecting me in real life. This is criminal. You can't say my Twitter followers are really mad about it. Everybody's saying he's wrong. Can we give him a fine? That's what's going to happen. Back to the article. No mom wants to sit her children down and say someone wants to hurt her because of who she is, said Ogre, who detailed for the committee the history of harassment and death threats against her sparked by activity online. Canadians need a civil remedy. Well, I would say to Miss Ogre, she should probably call the police and see if it rises to the level of criminality. But here's what's crazy about this. Toronto Sun reporting, quote, bail granted in alleged explosives possession case. Do you remember this from the other day? Right. Home in time for the Victoria Day weekend. Reza Mohammed is still, sorry if I've got that wrong, 47, and son Mayar, 18, were released at noon on Friday on $50,000 bail and ordered to return to court on June 6th. Neighbors were furious. Why did they get bail, said one. That's crazy. Another asked, how can they be charged with explosives but allowed to come back here? They'd been in custody since Monday when York Regional Police charged them with being in possession of an explosive substance. They were charged after officers executed a search warrant at a home on Larent Lane in Bayview and Elgin Mills Road East area. Now, none of the allegations against the men have been tested in court. The arrest comes after the U.S. Customs and Border Protection Agency detained the son at a vehicle border point May 9th. Neighbors described the Iranian-born mother and father as friendly and the son as a loner. Public Safety Minister Ralph Goodall said the case did not present a national security issue and was a matter for local police. I find it interesting that, and they talk about cusp of radicalization, I find it interesting the whole neighborhood was evacuated and explosives were detonated. And these guys got bail, but you better not say hate speech online, because Mr. Nathaniel Erskine Smith wants to make sure there could be a way, a mechanism to charge you, to make sure you are held accountable for your hatred, your hate speech online. But, let's make sure that these guys get out on $50,000 bail because explosives in the city. Last story for this morning is Statistics Canada asylum claims have more than tripled since 2015. Justin Trudeau has broken every single thing that he has touched, from Phoenix Pay to the Mark Norman situation to SNC to our immigration and asylum claims system. He has smashed it. It is terribly, terribly sad to see the damage he has caused in Canada. This is just a small sliver of the damage he's caused. I can't believe people are still supporting this person. It's unbelievable. Okay, back to the article. First, the article says, quote, figures reported today from the National Statistics Agency show the number of asylum claims in Canada nearly tripled between 2015 to 2018. According to Statistics Canada, in 2015, when Trudeau Liberals won the federal election, there were about 16,000 asylum claimants. Just 2 years later, the numbers shot up to 50,000. It should be noted that those numbers shot up the same year that Justin Trudeau tweeted his now infamous, quote, hashtag welcome to Canada tweet. According to the CBC, details from the National Statistics Agency also show that asylum claimants tend to be younger than the general population in Canada, and most are male. I scroll down. Less than a week after taking office in October 2015, Trudeau announced the plan to take in the 25,000 refugees, and the plan was immediately met with criticism. Refugee resettlement groups in Canada were some of the first to say the decision was unwise. While they applauded the goal and the good intentions, they feared it was too much, too fast. The government consulted with representatives of major refugee agencies on how to proceed based on their capabilities at the time. Providing more time for this large resettlement movement will lead to better resettlement outcomes, said Chris Friesen, the president of the Canadian Immigration Settlement Sector Alliance. Friesen was part of a conference call when the federal officials were urged to stretch their future Liberal boss's ambition out over a slightly longer horizon. Quote, reconsider the time frame. Keep the number, but let's do it over 2016 to the end of 2016, he told CBC News. 25,000 over 2 months is problematic. The Trudeau government proceeded with those targets anyway, and people have died because of it. And that's not hyperbole or anything. That is simply fact. Marissa Chen, I apologize if I've got her name wrong, but this is directly tied to one of Trudeau's refugees. Like, really, this is incredible. This is draconian. This is meant. These online hate speech laws are meant to silence dissent, silence discussion, silence anybody talking about stuff like this. That granting bail to people who were building bombs in a Richmond Hill home is not a good idea. It's a really bad idea. We don't live in a safer Canada. Justin Trudeau is not a good governor. Justin Trudeau's government is not a good administration. They're bad at their jobs. They have not kept Canada safe. They have not made Canada prosperous. Thanks for watching, everybody. Check out thepeoplespartyofcanada.ca and have a wonderful, wonderful long weekend. It's the Victoria Day weekend. Oh my goodness, I'm sorry. Start off the long weekend terribly. Oh, thanks for watching, everybody.